It started off like any other night. I was just sitting there, staring at my computer screen, ready to make a decision I had been avoiding for months. It's strange how we convince ourselves that the past can be erased with a single click. We block, unfollow, delete, thinking that the memories will just disappear along with it. But the truth is, the past has a way of lingering, no matter how hard we try to escape it. That night, though, I discovered that it wasn't just the memories that stayed, it was something far worse. I was finally about to unfriend Emily's account. It seemed like such a small, simple thing, just a few clicks to remove someone from your digital world, a final goodbye to a chapter I no longer wanted to revisit. I thought that unfriending her would mean wiping her away from my feed, my thoughts, and maybe even my life. But as my finger hovered over the unfriend button, something strange happened. The screen flickered for a moment like a glitch. I didn't think much of it. Computers glitch all the time, right? But as soon as I clicked, the screen froze. Everything around me seemed to pause. I stared at the computer, waiting for it to snap back to life, but it didn't. My cursor was stuck. The whole system seemed to crash. And just as I was about to restart the computer, something strange appeared on the screen. It wasn't a normal error message. No, I waited. I stared at the screen, expecting it to unfreeze like it always does after a glitch. But this time was different. The screen didn't just freeze, it glitched in a way I'd never seen before. A faint crackling sound came from my speakers, almost like static, and then, without warning, a message popped up. It wasn't the usual, "Are you sure you want to unfriend?" prompt. No, this one was different. The message on the screen read, "Are you sure you want to let go?" At first, I laughed it off. A bug, I thought. Maybe some weird error. I mean, who gets that kind of message? I hovered over the X to close it, ready to dismiss it as nothing more than a computer glitch. But something about it felt off. My hand froze over the mouse, and for a moment I couldn't move. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and a chill ran through me, even though the room was warm. I tried to shake it off, forcing myself to believe it was just some random bug, but I couldn't ignore the growing unease that gnawed at me. My gut was screaming that something wasn't right, but I brushed it aside. After all, it was just a message, just a computer screen. Right? Still, the words lingered. "Are you sure you want to let go?" It wasn't asking about unfriending. It felt deeper, almost. I clicked again, harder this time, thinking maybe the system just needed a reset. But nothing happened. The screen didn't respond. Instead, the message stayed there, flickering like it was alive, like it was waiting for me. That's when things started to get really strange. The computer began to glitch more violently. Colors blurred and distorted. The screen trembled slightly. And then, another message appeared. This one wasn't from the system. A chat window popped up, and my heart skipped a beat. Inside was a message from Emily. But that couldn't be possible. Emily was gone. I hadn't spoken to her in months, couldn't speak to her anymore. But there it was, staring back at me. Why did you leave me? I froze. My breath caught in my throat. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Maybe it was some kind of prank, some sick joke. But no one had access to her account. No one knew what had happened between us. I stared at the message, my hands hovering uselessly over the keyboard. My body felt cold, and a growing sense of dread filled the room. This wasn't right. This couldn't be happening. I wanted to shut the computer off, to unplug it and walk away, but my body wouldn't move. The chat window stayed there, taunting me, as if it knew something I didn't. The screen flickered again, more violently. I sat there, staring at the screen, my hand frozen over the mouse. My heart was pounding in my chest. This had to be some kind of sick joke, right? Maybe someone hacked her account. Maybe, but no. That didn't make sense. No one else knew what happened. No one else had access. I tried to reason with myself, but panic began to creep in. I clicked away from the chat window, desperately trying to close it, but the messages kept coming. Why did you leave me? Come back. Don't go. My pulse quickened. The air felt thick, like the room was closing in around me. I stood up abruptly, stepping away from the computer as if putting distance between me and the screen would make it all stop. My eyes darted to the window, half expecting to see nothing, but instead, I saw her. Or at least, I thought I did. Standing outside under the flickering streetlight was a figure, a shadow, faint but unmistakable. My stomach twisted. It was her, Emily. But she wasn't just standing there. She was flickering, glitching, just like the screen had moments before. I blinked, shaking my head as if I could somehow erase the image from my mind. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. But when I looked again, she was still there. Her form flickered in and out. I rubbed my eyes, hoping to erase the image, to wake up from whatever nightmare this was. But when I looked again, she was still there. Emily, standing perfectly still beneath the flickering streetlight, just watching. The shadows around her shifted and stretched as the light flickered on and off, casting an eerie glow around her glitching form. I whispered her name, barely audible, half expecting her to disappear like a phantom. But she didn't. She stayed, a shadowy silhouette, glitching in and out of the light, like something trapped between here and somewhere else. A cold sweat broke over me as I backed away from the window, my breath coming in shallow, panicked bursts. This couldn't be real. It couldn't. I must have been imagining. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe the glitch from the computer was messing with my head, blurring the lines between reality and whatever I thought I was seeing. I turned back to the screen, hoping for some kind of rational explanation, but the messages wouldn't stop. They kept coming, one after the other, flooding the chat window. Every time I tried to close them, they reappeared, more urgent, more desperate than before. Why did you leave me? Come back. Please don't go. Each one felt like a punch to the chest, tightening the pit of dread that was growing inside me. My fingers trembled as I moved the mouse, trying to shut down the computer, but it didn't matter. The messages wouldn't stop, and neither would the flickering form outside. My phone buzzed on the desk. I grabbed it, hoping for a distraction, something to remind me that reality still existed, something normal. But what I saw on the screen made my blood run cold. It was a picture of me, sitting at the desk, but it had been taken from behind like someone or something was watching me. My hands began to shake as I dropped the phone. Josh, speaking aloud, terrified. Who's doing this? Who's messing with me? I glanced around the room, heart pounding, searching for any sign of movement or an intruder. But there was nothing. Just me, alone in the dim light. I turned back to the computer, trying to shake off the fear, but then I saw her again. Not outside this time. No, this time she was on the screen. Her face, distorted, broken, glitching, stared back at me, her features warped like a corrupted file. Her eyes were empty, black hollows, as if someone had erased her soul. They bore into me, unblinking, terrifying. It didn't make sense. It wasn't possible. But it was her. Emily. The figure on the screen flickered and twitched, glitching in and out like she was trapped between worlds. Her figure flickered in and out of the screen, her distorted hands reaching toward me, her voice echoing through the speakers. Why did you leave me? The words were warped, twisted by the glitching sounds, but they were unmistakable. Emily wanted me. She wanted me back. Panic surged through me. I turned and bolted for the door, throwing it open with all my strength. But every time I stepped through, I found myself back in the same room, staring at the same flickering screen. It didn't matter what I did. There was no way out. I was trapped. The air in the room turned icy. My breath came in shallow gasps as I realized she was closing in. The walls seemed to tighten around me, pressing in like they were alive, like they were part of her. I could feel her presence everywhere. Inside the computer, in the shadows, in the very air I was breathing. The lights flickered, casting dark, dancing shadows that crawled across the room. There was no escaping her. She wasn't just in the computer anymore. She was in the walls, in the darkness, in everything around me. She was part of it now, and there was nothing I could do. I begged her to stop. My voice cracked as I shouted into the empty room, but it was useless. Her voice only grew louder, echoing from the screen, from the walls, from everywhere. Why did you leave me? Why did you forget me? Her words cut through me like a blade, warped by the glitching, twisting into something more sinister with every passing second. Then, her hand. It reached through the screen, glitching as it moved, distorted like her image. Her fingers, cold, broken, stretched toward me. I tried to move, to run, but I was frozen in place, my body paralyzed by fear. Her fingers got closer, the room growing colder with every inch they gained. My heart raced, my breath came in ragged gasps, but I couldn't escape. I couldn't even scream. I was trapped, and she was coming for me. The screen flickered, her hand reaching further, the shadows around me twisting like they were alive. I felt her presence, pulling me closer, and then everything went dark. The lights flickered out, the room disappeared, and I was left in suffocating darkness. Only her voice remained, lingering in the void. Why did you leave me? I don't remember what happened next. When I woke up, the screen was off, the room was silent. But the air was different, heavy, thick with something I couldn't explain. I sat there, staring at the blank screen, wondering if it was over, wondering if she was gone. But deep down, I knew the truth. She wasn't gone. She wasn't just a memory trapped in the digital world. She was something more now. Something I couldn't escape, no matter how hard I tried. And I'm still here, waiting for the next message, waiting for her to return, because I know she will.